What's up, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals? Welcome back to Wordy Weirdo, the channel where we talk all about the books we read, write, and study. I'm certified word nerd Miss Kaylin Weir, reader, writer, and ELA teacher, and I'm here to talk to you about this week's teaching tangent. Specifically, we're going to be looking all about how to teach yearbook with no experience. Okay, quick disclaimer. Yes, I typically use teaching tangents as a way to talk about things like thesis statements and literature and theme and ways to help students understand their English classes better. But I've had a weird situation happening the last couple of months, and I wanted to have a chance to sit down and talk about it. So let me set the scene for you. I took a long-term substitute job this year in September. I was informed about a week before school started that I would be starting teaching. Terrifying, right? I had 3 preps, which is a lot for non-teachers out there. Basically, it means I'm preparing for 3 different class topics every single day. It's a lot. One of those happened to be yearbook. Now, yearbook is not a class that you should just be thrown into like that. Like, you need summer training, you need to be able to get to know your students, you need to be able to understand the community. It's a lot to just be like, hey, you're teaching yearbook in a week and a half. Okay, but I realized today that some others might be in a similar boat. So I wanted to break down some of the lessons I've learned in case you ever find yourself in a situation where you're like, hey, I need to teach yearbook and I've never received training, I've never taken a yearbook class, and I really don't know what goes into making a yearbook, and I start Monday. So why don't we go ahead and jump right in. I have got about 10 different steps broken into 3 different categories, and I think by the end of it, you might not be a pro, but you'll cry a lot less. Let's start with community tips. Okay, so when I talk about community, I'm specifically talking about the communities in and around your school. This is fellow teachers and faculty, this is students and parents, but not like your students, not your staff. They're all of the other kids in the school, okay? So I've got 3 tips about this. Let's start with tip number 1. Get contacts early. What do I mean by contacts? Contacts means anybody's email that is important to creating a good yearbook. Now, who's important to creating a good yearbook? Everybody involved with your school. And I do mean everybody. If they have ever had contact with your students in that year, you need their contact information. I don't care if it's the janitors, I don't care if it's lunch aides, I don't care if it's secretaries in the school, coaches, drama directors, fundraising help. Do you got a tech program somewhere that students bus off to? Blue Water Middle College, advisors that help with college prep courses, mental health associations that make advertisements in your school. It doesn't matter. You need their email. You will be surprised to find how helpful it becomes if you can just hand an email off to a student and say, this is who you contact. It really makes your life that much simpler. And on a similar note, get schedules fast. I'm talking if there's a season for a sport, you want all of their game schedules. If you've got band concerts, you want all of those schedules. AP tests, you know it. Oh, fundraisers for student council? Yeah, you're gonna want those dates. Anything at all that you could send students to get content from, you want to know the dates. I'm telling you, it's important. And you can combine these two. Maybe you have an interesting program in your school, like a ceramics class. That's cool. So maybe they have an end of the year project or like a presentation that you just didn't know about. If you get on good terms with them or let them all know, hey, everybody, send me your information. Send me what cool dates you have going on with your classroom. You can get yearbook staff in there like that. It's so much simpler. All right, step number 2 in community is, seriously, it's such a hack. Become best buds with your school's accountant. If you've got a person in your building that's literal only job or one of their big jobs is to work with money, you want that as your best friend. That person is your best friend for this year. especially if you get thrown in last minute and they just hand you a bunch of checks and orders and you're panicking. Trisha, I swear I will never be able to pay you back in this lifetime. Seriously, it makes things disappear if you become friends with them, because all I had to do was go, here's a stack of orders I don't understand. And she went, cool. I see, here's some students that, oh, they underpaid, oh, they overpaid. Let me go ahead and call them for you. Again, seriously, makes your life easier. Really does, I promise. Become best buds with them. Don't ever let them out of your sight. Offer them whatever you need to, bribe them to get them to help you with this work. It will make your job simpler, especially if you have a lot of other tasks than just yearbook. And number 3 for community, previous yearbook advisors. Unless your school is brand new or literally never built a yearbook before, you have advisors somewhere, all right? They might be retired. They might be moved to a different program. They might not have worked in yearbook a whole year. I don't care if they worked in there for 6 weeks. You get in contact with them, okay? They make a difference. They learned something. Even if they didn't get training, even if they hated every moment of it, they learned something. And they can teach that to you as well, quickly, without question, all right? So get in contact and become friends with them. Not quite as close as your lovely accountant friend, but like almost as close. Okay, those are my 3 tips for like your school's community. The next section is your program. Now, when I say program, I'm talking these are the people that help you produce the yearbook. So for us, we have a group called Jostens. They're a very popular group. There's tons and tons of places that they work with. So you may also be working with Jostens. You might have a different company though. I don't know your situation. But there are 2 tips I have regarding getting to know that side of the yearbook. Number 1, create a relationship with them early. My plug and my contact at Jostens, I wish I would have gotten to know him so much faster this year. And I wish that I would have come to him with more problems much earlier than I did. He gave me so many different tips and tricks. It was fantastic. But still, get into contact with them early. If you don't know who to contact with this early on, or any of your other contacts, I forgot to mention this earlier, talk to your principal. They're the ones who will know, genuinely speaking. And it's their job to know and their job to point you in the right direction. Okay? And number 2, for dealing with the program, get to know the software that you use. So for us, it is a website called Yearbook Avenue. I don't know if software is the correct terminology here, but like it's the closest I can come if you've never used Yearbook, if you've never taught Yearbook before. So you're gonna want to get to know the program. For us, like I said, it's called Yearbook Avenue. And oh my goodness, do I wish that at the beginning of the year I would have just played around with creating pages and putting in templates and figuring out how to insert pictures and captions and looking at editing. All sorts of good stuff there. And I just did not use it. So now, if a student has a question for me, I basically go, hey, here's my editor. Ask her, not me. Leave me alone. Not with everything, but with the program, yeah, because I don't know it super well. Get to know it early. Get to know every little nook and cranny of it. It will make your job easier. Because what happens if you have to do part of one of the pages? Ooh, right? Okay. The last category is students, and this is your staff. This is the people in your classroom that you are teaching that are helping you build this thing. This is important, obviously. They're literally the ones making everything. I have 5 tips for them, I believe. Hoping I count correctly. First tip, and this is especially true for my fellow first-year teachers, like if you've never taught by yourself in a classroom before, this is really important to learn fast. Delegate, don't wait. We all have these images in our heads sometimes that like our yearbook staff is going to be the super dedicated, motivated, excited group of kids that they know exactly what they're going to do and they know exactly what they want to do and they knew what they were signing up for when they did, and that's not how it works. Basically, you have to assume they're like any other student, and sometimes you're gonna get lazy kids that don't want to do the work. So you need to learn how to delegate quickly. Don't wait for their opinions. You can ask for volunteers, but the minute you notice there's no hands going in the sky, or you're like, ooh, they seem reluctant, you start handing out requirements. Hey, student A, you're going to the basketball game. Student B, guess what you're doing during lunch today? Student C, notice how we don't have any pictures of a math class? Go across the hall. Now, sometimes your students are going to have valid excuses, but you're probably just as often going to get hit with, I don't have time. What are you doing? Well, I just have some homework. This is your homework. But my friends and I, take them with you. Can I? No. I don't know. But you need to do this first. This is their class. They need it for credit. You need to give them the requirements. Don't wait for them to volunteer. And that brings us into point number 2 with this is accountability. Establish it quickly. Oh my goodness. And establish it firmly. There are many ways to establish accountability in Yearbook. One of the first things that I wish I would have done from the beginning is actually just putting student names on their pages. Saying at the very bottom of a page created by, and putting their first and last name. It does 2 things. Number 1, it gives credit where credit is due, and number 2, it lights a fire under their butts that tells them, hey, if this page sucks, the whole school will know why. That's a big deal, alright? Especially because these kids are typically pretty proud of what they do, or they're supposed to be. There are other ways though, if your school doesn't do that, if you don't feel comfortable with it, or if your students refuse, whatever. Another way you could handle it is things like contracts, making them sign up early and laying out, if you haven't completed X number of pages by this deadline, you're out of the program. Saying like what's going to pass or fail. Tons and tons of ways to create accountability. Making sure that you maybe having teams, and you say this is your photography team. You are required to take X number of pictures at X number of events. Whatever the case, create accountability, stick by your guns, and really trust in your ability to make it work. Which can be super helpful if you adhere by step number 3 in this category, student motivation. All of your kids joined Yearbook for a reason. It's not just a class you randomly shove in there usually. They join it for a handful of reasons. Some of them are really excited about the creation of pages and laying out the page and figuring out the captions and all of that good stuff. They just really enjoy the editing process. Make them an editor. If you have an experienced editor, have them train underneath them. Learn how to put templates in. Learn how to look for spelling errors. Figure out what a layout should look like. If you have students who just are really fantastic with a camera, get them those important dates from, your community contacts and give them a camera and shoo them into the wild. They'll come back with pictures. If they're really good at meeting new people or are super involved in all sorts of different activities, if they're in like 3 sports and 2 clubs and all these AP classes, make them an interviewer. Send them out to get interviews. Give them a topic, give them a time limit, tell them to go. If they are super huge on social media, make them an advertisement creator. That's fantastic. We need ads. People need to buy this book, right? Now you might be saying, okay, but Miss Kaylin Weir here, what about my students who joined because they thought it'd be an easy A? Number 1, they're dumb, but high schoolers. I'm kidding. For any of my high schoolers that are watching this, y'all know I love you. I'm teasing. But also, Yearbook's not an easy A. You're selling a product. But anyway, they can also be super useful. There are a lot of menial tasks that require no thought process and are just time-consuming that you can hand them. Do you have a bunch of your student mugs that you need to double-check the spelling of their names and the order of the classes? Yeah, those are the students you hand those sheets to and say, go at it. Do you have a ton of unsorted pictures in your program that you really need people to figure out where they go? Or do you have cameras that need the pictures to be uploaded? Guess what they can do? Do you have emails and surveys that need to be sent out or just created so that you can send them out? Fantastic! Guess what their job is? Need somebody on email duty, just like watching the email to make sure we don't have any other big things come in. Organizing senior quotes, memorizing senior pictures, putting everything in order. That's their job. It's not very difficult. You can get away with putting in minimal effort, but it will take them some time. But most classes are an hour long, so it'll be fine. Alright, I have 2 points left. They kind of go together, but one is more important than the other in my opinion. First one is creating a visible calendar. How badly I wish I had something in my classroom that was huge and my students could put all of the dates on that we needed or could take information from. This could be all of those different important contacts from the beginning, things like the different sporting events, band and choir concerts, I should say, AP tests, student council organization meetings, whatever. It could also be your deadlines. There are tons and tons of things that we need to know the exact dates. If you have a visible calendar, I would love to have a physical visible calendar just in the front of my classroom, huge, blown up. As a matter of fact, if I get Yearbook next year, it's what I'm doing. I'm gonna find a massive calendar to throw somewhere, because the more visible it is, the more we're all super aware of what's happening, okay? And you don't get stuck in situations where there's nobody to take a picture because nobody knew about it. It's important. And number 5 of this category, number 10 of it all, create a rigid schedule. This is twofold. Rigid schedule for your students and a rigid schedule for yourself. If you know that you have a deadline coming up, I'm talking maybe it's, the first deadline and it's November 15th, for example, out of the blue. Create a week cushion for yourself, not for your students. They have to submit by the end of, November 7th, maybe. They have to get their pages ready to go. And then you can take those to your principal and double check everything. Because I'm telling you now, your principal wants to see everything. They want to triple check everything, because not only do these books cost a ton of money, they also represent the school as a whole. It's important. So you need to make sure that you have time to show your principal anything that happens, okay? Those are my 10 tips for creating a more effective yearbook situation. Listen, I am not trained as a yearbook advisor. This is literally things I learned in the field in the last 6 months. It's been a lot. But I'm hoping that with these tips out there, if you happen to be in internet land and you were in a weirdly similar situation to me, it makes your experience that much easier. That's my whole goal with this. So thank you for listening to this week's Teaching Tangent. If you were a teacher, I hope it helped. If you were not a teacher, I hope you found it interesting. If you're looking for more like this, meaning, Teaching Tangent, usually it's related to things like English language arts, not so much how to be a better teacher, but, sometimes I throw it in the mix, why not? But if you're looking for more like this, or you want things such as my reading rants and my writing workshops where I talk about books that I've read, books that I'm writing, how to be a better writer, how to be a better reader, that kind of stuff, don't forget to subscribe and ring-a-ding-ding that bell down below. If you're looking for pictures of work, words, and books, please follow me over on Instagram at author Kaylin Weir. That's Kahlan, and Weir as in weirdo. If you want to see more topics about becoming a better yearbook advisor, click the like button to let me know to do more like this. I'm Morty Weirdo, signing off with a reminder to watch your words. Bye, everybody.